Thanks for joining us today. Today's guest speakers are Dee Jones, Matthew Schwab, and Michelle Schwab. Dee is an individual with autism who shares her tools for living an independent life with other individuals with autism through guest speaking events at ECU Department of Occupational Therapy, Teach, and other programs across North Carolina. She provides personal insight to help professionals understand how to better serve people with disabilities. She has been a physical therapist assistant for more than 20 years and is a provider for inpatient and outpatient care services. She has also served as an adjunct instructor at Craven Community College in its physical therapist assistant program. Dee received her bachelor's degree in psychology from Rutgers University, a second bachelor's degree in liberal arts science from Newman College, and her associate's degree in physical therapy assistance at Union County College. Matthew is a 21-year-old native North Carolinian who lives with his parents, two brothers, and his dog Daisy in Holly Springs. He graduated from HSHS in June 2017 with an occupational course of study diploma. He's currently enrolled in Project Search through Wake Tech, an internship-based educational program. He has worked at the Holly Springs Chick-fil-A for almost 4 years as a dining room host and food runner and volunteer at the Museum of Natural Sciences in Raleigh. Michelle is a wife and mother of 3 boys, all of whom are closer to being men than boys. Her oldest is 21, Matthew, and he has Down syndrome. She has a bachelor's of social work and has worked as a social worker before going back to graduate school to earn a master's of education in early childhood education. Michelle has been involved in the special needs community since Matthew was born, and she helped found the Triangle Down Syndrome Network 20 years ago and has served in a variety of roles over the years. Michelle was part of the startup team for GiGi's Playhouse Raleigh, and serves on the board.
Being a part of Disability Rights North Carolina is passion to my heart. You might see me tear up, and that's okay, because I was told that when your tears form in your eyes, it's your heart actually speaking, because you can't take your heart out of your body to let it talk to you. So just know that that's the way the heart speaks, and this is a passion for me because I'm old enough to have lived. Actually, I was living around that time. The difference is that my parents disagreed with the physician. So I lived in home versus probably in one of the institutions. I don't know if you know about Temple Grandin. Temple Grandin is a well-known person, more so than I, and I'm okay with that. She is older than I am, but just like her mom, who refused to put her in an institution, my mom and dad refused to listen to them because I was 1 pound and 2 ounces, the size of my hand, and the size of a tissue box, the Kleenex tissue box. And my dad used to put me on top of it to sleep on top of the pillow because they were afraid that they would roll over on me. So that was a way of keeping me safe. So this is truly, that video brings tears to my eyes because if you have ever been to a nursing facility, some of the bigger ones remind me of that. Some of the little ones don't. And I'm always an advocate, regardless of who I'm treating. And as a physical therapist assistant, I tend to go to places like that and make a difference, and I'm glad I can do that. So the whole purpose for disability rights, in my eye, is that they put a stop to discrimination, they in various settings for people with various disabilities. An example with that would be in February 2015, a Greenville, North Carolina dentist and the Department of Health and Human Services were sued by by disability rights because of discrimination with Medicare. So their legal representation is a powerhouse. They do public work, public policy changes and work. We can't go out and do the grassroots. They can't because they receive federal funding from them, but we can, as board members and as the community, you can help fight those causes in the grassroots level. They do investigate and neglect, and there's like it's psychiatric residential facilities, and they investigate those. And that's where you have a person or people who are living in a facility because their parents or the schools, public schools, can't take care of them, so they send them off. but then they don't do justice, so we have to go in and investigate that. You'd be surprised at how much we see. Okay, I personally haven't gone to a PFRT. I'm messing up their acronym, but the facility, because I'm a board member, so I can't just walk in on those things. But as a physical therapist assistant, I can always go in and treat if I had a contract to go treat. So that makes it a plus. The other thing that they do is training and education. This is disability rights. They do go out and train. So if you want them to come talk more, I already spoke to them. They said you just let them know and they'll come out and talk on a topic. They do go out to different schools, different facilities, different offices, and talk and educate not only the people up higher up like bosses and stuff, but also the students who are advocates for themselves. They do training, and that's how I got involved. I got involved with what was called the DATE training, and when I saw the flyer, I'm like, take a date. It said DATE, and I'm like, okay, why do we have to schedule a date? You know, I didn't understand it, so I was inquisitive. I think I'm using the right word. I was inquisitive, so I signed up and I went. And what it was a training to teach people how to be advocates across the state. And you help the individuals on the phone and talk to them about who the contact. So that was really good, and that's how I got. I didn't plan on being on the board. It just happened, and I had rules because I have a support team that said you can't do X, Y, Z. But I missed that cue because I became the chair, not because I was told I was going to do that. So some of on here it says, like I said, the law enforcers, I consider them a law enforcer. They go in without physical guns, but they do go in blazing with words. And as attorneys, they do a lot of briefs. If you know what a brief is, it's pretty big. It took me a little bit to figure that out. They help change policies throughout the state, and I have some examples about those too. Besides the dentist being sued, there was a settlement on behalf of children with complex needs, and that's where a child can have a physical disability and a behavioral disability, and that's considered complex needs. And why would a school give them a hard time, a child? If you need to help, you need to help, but they were giving them a hard time and not accepting the IEPs. And the IEPs are for educational, and then there's a behavior IEP that's strictly behavior, and they weren't honoring both. So they saw that in May of 2018, that just happened. That was pretty cool. And if we all drive, right? Everybody drives. So they filed a lawsuit and won in 2014 with the Department of Motor Vehicles. Now, I'm going to explain it to you. I see you got an idea. It's like, everybody does. So people who have physical disabilities, and you walk in, or you're riding, or whatever, with a physical disability, they automatically singled you out. And you had to go, by the expense of your own pocket, go get a medical report that they gave you, had to be filled out by your medical doctor. You had to bring that back, and then they only gave you a license for a year. Most of us have license for 6 years or 10 years, or I think 10 is the most. I really don't know. I'm from New Jersey. So people that had a physical disability were being discriminated by that because the person at the desk who was saying, here's your license, and you got it for a year because they saw you with a physical disability. Regardless of the adaptive equipment that cars are able to have, that's what they were doing for people with physical disabilities. So we won that case, yay, and that was in February 2014, so I was kind of excited about that. And the importance of, the question was, what was the importance of having it? I'm glad we have an organization like this, because having an organization helps me, because sometimes I lose my voice. It's hard to believe, but sometimes I can't talk. And knowing that I have a group of people that I can reach out to and say, help me, help whatever the situation is, that makes me feel really, 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 really strong. And I think, I don't know if everybody's had anything to do with the Department of Human Resources. You probably have and just don't realize it. But the idea that we can sue them and we can make them do things right and not put us on hold for 24 minutes and come back, oh, you got the wrong number. It bothers me. Okay, pet peeve. I'm going on a tangent, sorry. Because it was not good. That was not a good thing. Rights covers all 4 regions. That says Mountain, Piedmont, Coastal Plains. I guess this is the Coastal Plains. And Tidewater would be the beach, because that's how I learned it. So we go out to all of those areas, and when we have board members, we pull board members from each region. We try to get at least 2, sometimes 3 from each region. And we're in the process of revamping that to see what number we really need. But having representation from each one of these locations speaks volumes. And the reason why I say it speaks volumes is because I had the privilege, the opportunity, the excitement of going to the listening sessions. And what the listening sessions was, and they're going to have another one coming soon, where they would go to different parts of the state covering every county. Like, I've traveled all 100 counties, and I'm not even from North Carolina, go figure. But it was the curiosity to hear what people were saying and what they were dealing with and what they were experiencing. And I have a few examples. So, like, in the far mountains, because you go far, it's some place called Murphy. Have you ever heard of that? Well, back there, a lot of people in that area had trouble. Imagine being in an emergency room. We go because we have an emergency, correct? Well, going to the emergency room and spending 3 months minimum in the emergency room on a cot, on their stretcher, because they don't have a place for you and you suffer with mental illness. So that kind of pulls really hard at me, because people with mental illness don't need to be disturbed. Can you imagine? I'm sure all of you have been to the emergency room and you hate sitting in that long waiting and not being served. Well, imagine sitting on a cot, or what we call a stretcher, and somebody's bringing you a bedpan right in the middle of open. It's not even a closed curtain, because you're behind the rest of the people, but let's say this is the back area, you're right here, and we see you because we're workers. We're nurses and doctors and stuff like that, and nursing assistants. We get to see you, pass by you every day, but the other community people don't get to see you, but you're on a cot. You're being bathed, hopefully getting bathed. They may pull a portable sheet kind of thing to cover you as they bathe you, but that takes away your dignity. And that bothers me a lot. That was in Manio. Not having the services they need for people with mental illnesses on the west, the far, far west. Then when we went to into the far east, down by the shore, people were saying that they were independent, physically impaired, because we were at, let me think, the Outer Banks. You ever heard of way out there, one of those cities? I can't remember. Manio, that's the name of it. It was Manio. Manio, they were way out in the aisle in the water. Oh, have you ever driven there? Oh my gosh, that was horrible to me. Here, I'm going to tell you why, real quick. I'm going to tell you what. When you drive there, there's only one way in and one way out. So you got cars going this way and you got cars that way. What if somebody's car breaks down? You're in the middle of the ocean, the water, because how are they going to get to you? And nobody could answer that question for me. So I will not drive there again. Somebody else would have to drive, because it just didn't make sense to me. But okay, I digress. So there, one of the complaints that really hurt visually impaired individuals were completely independent daylight hours. So after 7 o'clock in the morning, they were independent. If they didn't get back home before 4 o'clock, they were stranded, because there was no lighting, there was no transportation, and there was no way to get home. So imagine the campus here. First thing, class at 8 o'clock is bright lights. 4 o'clock, it starts to get dark, and you're visually impaired and can't get off campus. That's what that was like. And to hear their passion as they expressed it was even more wrenching to my soul, to my inside, not soul, but to my inside. And then we had on the, I guess it was Charlotte region area up there, their complaints was transportation. Believe it or not, Charlotte's pretty big, but there were still issues with transportation. So all of these areas, for me, I got to hear that because I don't live there. And to know as a board member, I could voice my opinion and help make change. And that was the beauty of being on the board. And that I will always remember that. Not every board member went to everyone, but that's okay. my desire was to go and see what am I doing on this board and how can I help? So we have coming up, and I gave you guys a handout on that. We have and I can give you one because they didn't make it back this way. Okay, Matthew? They're around here somewhere, but I'll make sure you get one. That we have an upcoming conference, and it's going to be on May 1st. Everybody can come to it, and I wish you would, because they break out in different sessions of different issues that are affecting people, or concerning, I shouldn't say affecting, concerning people with disabilities. So I think if you get the opportunity to go on the 1st of May, that would be great. The other thing, we just had a launching, and I don't know if I could, well, let me show you this video. This is pretty cool too. Watch this one. This one's really cool. Let me make it bigger. I can make it bigger. No, I can't. Okay, but can you see? No, let's make it bigger. It looks better bigger. It doesn't want to go bigger. Okay, sorry. But it looks really good bigger. And I hope I didn't stop it. No, here it comes. The music is great too, right? Makes you want to move.
A service animal can change the life of a person with a disability by allowing for increased independence and community involvement. Federal law gives people the right to have their service animals with them at virtually all times in almost every setting. The Americans with Disabilities Act requires that all public entities and places of public accommodation allow service animals. Public entities are state and local governments, so service animals must be allowed in all buildings they own and all programs they run. Places of public accommodation are private entities that provide goods and services to the public, such as hotels, movie theaters, grocery stores, restaurants, and medical facilities. The ADA covers almost all of our daily interactions. As a business owner or employee, the best strategy is to assume you have a responsibility to allow service animals, absent one of the exceptions we'll discuss in a bit. So what animals qualify as service animals? Here are the rules according to the ADA. First, the animal must be a dog or miniature horse. Second, it must be individually trained to do work or perform tasks for the benefit of a person with a disability. That disability may be physical, psychiatric, intellectual, sensory, or some other disability. Third, the work or tasks the animal performs must directly relate to the person's disability. Service animals can be trained to do a wide variety of tasks. A seeing eye dog can provide navigational assistance to a person with a visual impairment. Or someone with hearing loss may have an animal that alerts him to noises like traffic or an alarm. A service dog can transport things and open doors for someone with mobility issues. Some animals are trained for medical alerts. They can let their owners know about an impending seizure or a dangerous drop in blood sugar. Someone with autism who has sensory issues may have a service animal that provides deep pressure therapy. Or a service dog can help a person with a psychiatric condition by disrupting self-injurious or aggressive behaviors. These are just a few examples of the many tasks service animals can do. If you work in a business, nonprofit organization, or government office, and you want to know if someone's dog or miniature horse is a service animal, there are two and only two questions you are allowed to ask. You can ask, 1, is this a service animal required for a disability? And 2, what task or skill is the animal trained to perform? You cannot ask the person what his disability is, and you cannot demand proof that the animal is a trained service animal. Here's an example of how the interaction should go.
Welcome. Is this service animal required for a disability?
Yes, she is.
What is she trained to do?
She's a guide dog, so she takes me around and alerts me to obstacles.
Wonderful. Come on in.
Remember, people with disabilities have the right to have their service animals with them, even if other patrons don't approve. It is the responsibility of the business owner or employee to honor that right. An allergy to dogs is not a valid reason to exclude a service animal. There are specific situations in which you, as a business owner or employee, can prohibit a service animal. If the animal would present an actual, objective, significant risk to health and safety that you can clearly articulate, or if you have a valid reason to believe that the specific service animal will behave aggressively or unpredictably. That means your reason has to be about the animal in question, not about the particular breed of dogs or dogs in general, and not based on your previous experiences with other service animals.
Any questions?
Does a service animal have to wear a vest or have an ID?
No. A service animal may have a vest or an ID, but it's not required.
animal have to be trained by a professional dog trainer?
No, someone with a disability can train their own service animal to perform a task related to their disability.
Can a small dog like a Chihuahua be a service animal?
Yes, service animals do not have to be any particular size or breed. For example, a small dog like a Chihuahua might be just as effective as a large dog when it comes to detecting changes in blood sugar.
Wait a minute, I'm a doctor. Do I have to allow a service animal to go anywhere in my medical facility?
You must allow a service animal to accompany a patient anywhere you would allow a human companion to go without taking extra precautions. For example, if you allow a patient's parent or spouse to accompany them into an exam room, then you must allow the service animal. On the other hand, in areas such as an operating room where a human companion would not be allowed, the service animal may be excluded. Thank you. Have a good day. Any other form?
Oh, look, a dog. Wait, is it okay if I pet your service animal?
Great question. Let me answer that with some service animal etiquette. No, you should not pet a service animal. In fact, you should try to ignore them. Remember, these are working animals and you should not touch, distract, or pet them. Just as important, don't ignore the handler. Treat them just as you would any other customer or client. As was explained, the rights of persons with disabilities who have service animals are guaranteed under the Americans with Disabilities Act. The ADA is a civil rights law which guarantees access and opportunities to persons with disabilities. Knowing the rights of persons with disabilities who have service animals is crucial to every business owner and employee. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video.
The reason why I put that up there is because there are so many individuals out there using an emotional support animal to the point where everything you could think of is considered, quote, an emotional support animal. They're not certified, they're not approved, airlines are cracking down on them, and to me, that hurts people who really need them. And it's because it's become our fashion in our social media. I don't do social media. I'm gonna use that phrase, but I don't know anything about social media other than it exists. So I think bringing awareness to you guys, and so you can share with others who may say, oh, I got my dog and I'm taking him into the supermarket. That's not right. It should only be for people who really need it. And yes, you got a fashionable poodle, whatever they're called. Keep them home where they belong, you know, or keep them in your car. I shouldn't be mean, but it's just one of my pet peeves because I think that people who need them can't get them. You know how much they cost in places like $2,000 to $3,000, and you know, getting everything approved and going through the process. That's why the question, can you have your own, is a wonderful thing if your dog is that in tune to you. But they still have to prove that they are capable of doing the work. And then you have individuals who can't get that because they, one, can't afford it and desperately need it. Two, because of our lifestyle. Social media has, what's her name? Parker Hilton with the little pocketbook and the pooch and the gold room. So, and I'm glad it says no cats. So people can't have cats. I'm terrified of cats. When it talks about, I am terrified of cats. I'm so glad nobody has a cat. I saw your little bag, but it doesn't look like a cat, and I'm so thankful because I was getting nervous there. But when they talked about for autism, yes, I could have one, but because of the work I do, I don't want to bring them into the environment. So I wear my backpack, which is extremely heavy, and when I'm talking out in public, and I have multiple layers on, regardless of the temperature outside. I have compression garments from head to toe. Yeah, from head to toe on that helps keep my sensory system in check for the most part, unless something causes me to have a meltdown. Yes, meltdowns are not just for little people. I have serious meltdowns, especially when a police officer pulls me over for no reason, which has happened, and I can lose my voice and call for help. That's pretty much my routine. Okay, help, and then I pass the phone to the police officer. So I just want to hope that you can share this information about service animals to anybody that you may need or know that may need it. People don't realize someone with diabetes, it will be very beneficial to have because your blood sugars can drop in a second and you don't even know it. We can sit here and have this conversation and your blood sugars are dropping over there. Sorry, I'm healthcare. So that's why I put that there. This, and like I said, see, I don't know if I can open up the website, but this top one where they launched just happened on the 29th, where Disability Rights is now doing an educational series for students and whoever wants to read it. It's on that website, and they talk about different events for the education purposes. So that's the newest thing, and I wanted to make sure I at least put that out there because this is school, and school is my special interest. And I don't know how many of you know someone who was affected by Matthew and Matthew and Florence hurricanes. Disability Rights staff has been on the ground from day one, trying to help people with disabilities and prevent them from displacement. So we're having a forum on March 16th, this is Saturday, I'll be there. And we're gonna be talking to so if you know someone who lives in that area or who wants to drive out there to hear or voice their concerns, because the latest thing I heard is that there's some people who are still in tents, living in tents. Didn't the temperature drop down in the 1 digits last night? They're sleeping in tents. Why are they sleeping in tents? They should not be sleeping in tents because, but that's what's happening in some of the areas that were hit pretty hard. And we're going to have a forum. So if you know anyone, talk and bring them in like that. And the conference, like I said, come to the conference. You'll have fun. I always have fun. I'm overstimulated more than I am right now because I am. And when you see me in that, I'm even more stimulated. So. And that's some of the events that are current events, like coming up right now. This question was about what other organizations that helped me. And I don't know if you know, because I'm autistic, of course, I'm going to give you the autistic kind of ones. The first one is TEACH. That's associated with the school. And they're well known. They do a lot of research, what's going to help a person with autism. For me, it doesn't do a whole lot because I'm older. And a lot of they say they have adult programs, but when I go and look at the routines of what's acceptable for the adults, I don't fit in that category. So I just pass the information along to others. The Autism Society grassroots, they can go out and voice complaints against the lobbyists and stuff like that. Disability Rights can't, but knowing that there is another organization that can, the organization itself can do that, but it's best to have families and people that care and voice it. Now, ECVC stands for East Carolina Vocational Center. This is an employment. They have a commercial on TV. I disagree with the commercial because it doesn't give you the details. It says it so people can call them. However, it's supposed to help people with disabilities find and maintain and keep a job. I'm going to leave it at that until the next slide because I disagree. I mean, not disagree. They couldn't help me. They couldn't help me because they tried to give me a burger job. Here I am, someone with 4 degrees, and you're trying to give me a burger job, burger job. Why am I going to flip burgers? I don't even cook at home, So that was kind of really upsetting to me, and I'm not trying to badmouth them, but that's what they did, and I'm like, okay, I have a physical therapy assistant job. I mean, how can you not give me a job there? So. That was kind of really painful. Here in Green, some inclusive places, because I wasn't sure exactly what you wanted with this, but the inclusion public places in Greenville that I know of, that I've interacted with, was the Sensory Friendly Movie Theater, and there's several everywhere. The problem with that is, and there is a problem. The problem is that they don't show all the movies, so I couldn't go see something I wanted to go see, Then they don't show them all the time. It's not sensory friendly every day of the week. It's on a Tuesday or Saturday morning. And it's not every Tuesday and Saturday morning, Tuesday night and Saturday morning. It's 2 times a month. So how is that helpful for me? So I got to disrupt my life to go to the movie theater when it's convenient for the movie theater. One of my pet peeves. The Inclusive Park in Greenville, it was put together with the Autism Society, but it's for all disabilities. So it deals with sensory, it deals with mobility. It deals with everything. And it's right, if you've ever been to Greenville, it's down at the town commons area. I got in trouble because I wanted to test it out. Then I was told, well, see, you're a little too old for that. But it's there. Okay. Swimming, adaptive swimming. I had the privilege of having some of my patients who, when I was working at the hospital in Greenville, who were wheelchair accessible and spinal cord injuries. So we took them out to the adaptive swimming. And it's not just for people with disabilities, so it's inclusive of anybody who wants to swim at that location. So those are some things. In Greenville and surrounding areas of Greenville, there are other programs, but they're specific to the disabilities. So that I didn't think I needed to put up here because that was excluding people, and we want to be inclusive. So I left that one alone. Some other stories. Oh, I'm supposed to explain about this. I'll get to that. Oh, this was awesome. Look at this. This is about an article, if you get a chance. The article is on Wall Street Journal, and it talks about how more and more people with disabilities are in the workforce. I thought it was an excellent article, so I wanted to share it with you. The problem with that is it doesn't explain how people who don't have physical disabilities are discriminated in the workplace when they're told they have a disability. Doesn't talk about that though, but it happens. And it's unfortunate that it happens because you have a choice, you tell or you don't tell. And for me, I've been on both ends. Not telling, get in trouble. Telling, get in trouble. So right now it's like, I just recently learned the phrase, fake it till you make it. Don't really understand it, but I'm trying to learn it because it was told to me to do that. I don't really understand it, and I'm working my hardest to do that. So but I'm glad people are in the workforce. I'm glad that that's working, and I'm happy. Now, in my communities, things that worked that helped me, I participated in the parents family group for autism and for TEACH, the Autism Society and TEACH. Even though I'm not a parent, they let me come in. And the reason why they said that is because I can bring stuff to the table. I never walked in there with stuff, but they said it was okay. I'm like, so what am I supposed to be bringing? But they said the reason is that me sharing what I deal with helps them with their children. So I guess that's what I was bringing. I thought I had to physically bring something. East Carolina University is the school there, and I stay in their library because it's open till 12 o'clock, sometimes 24 hours, and I can go, and most people are like, gone. The big people are gone, so it's less stimulating. Pitt Community College, the Disability Services Center, I took a class because I'm a schoolaholic. If I had the opportunity right now, I'll be sitting there with you guys. So I just take classes just because I like to go to school. So I took a class, and their Disability Service Center staff was very helpful navigating things because people get that little bit late saying that, these are the accommodations, and they don't necessarily have to tell you what the disability is. But when you give that to a professor, and the professor have no clue and don't feel that you need these accommodations, that's what I had to deal with. Like, really? Prime example. I'm gonna make this real quick. I know I'm running out of time. I took a class, and the teachers gave spelling tests every week. And I needed to take the test. Oops, I got 5 minutes. I needed to take the test before, like in another room, and they would let me. So I wind up going over ahead with their help and wind up doing self-test the course myself and just taking her exam because she kind of tried to single me out, and I had to call her out. So needless to say, that's it. Carolina Connections is an occupational physical therapy center for pediatric level, and they do a great job. Easter Seals helps with a job coach in one of my jobs, and that was kind of confusing because typically a job coach will teach you how to do the work. They were watching me to pick up social interaction and then sitting down telling me about it. And that's the only thing that East Carolina Vocational Center could do for me because they couldn't find me a job. So I found all my jobs myself. I think I'm finished. I think I am finished. Oh, really quick. Unhelpful places, some restaurants, lack of sensory friendly atmosphere. Checkout, I don't do self-checkouts. The noise is too loud, the touch screen I can't handle, and that's just me. And then public buses in Greenville only run short time, so what about if I didn't want to drive? And I'm thankful I can. Malls are extremely loud, and they should be less loud for places where so if you guys can figure that out, that'd be great. I think I'm finished. I think I am. I don't know how to move it. Oh, I'm finished, I think. I can do this. Thank you. Yeah, I am finished. Really quick question. Oh, there was one more slide though. But that slide, you want to see it real quick? Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you for the clap, but look at this slide. You have to put it in presentation to press that. Oh, righty then. Okay, I forgot how to do that. Is that it? Yeah, it should be it. Okay, I don't know how to do it. I need help. Oh, I did do it. How do you get back? Oh, I see it. Yeah. This one's really good. You're gonna like this one. And then I'm out of your way. You're really gonna like it. Really.
We explain why the inclusion of people with disabilities is good for everyone. Meet Sarah. She's a smart girl who loves to sing and help her mother to cook. When she grows up, she wants to be a teacher and get married. Sarah has cerebral palsy caused by partial damage to the brain and therefore uses a wheelchair to move around. She's an outgoing person and whenever she needs help, she asks for it. But while Sarah can do most things herself, she faces many barriers. Some people's attitudes as well as physical and economic barriers make life difficult for Sarah. They say she can't be in a choir and so far, no school has accepted her. If Sarah can't go to school, she won't find a job, and without a job, she will always be dependent on others. This is not only a waste of her skills, it's a violation of her right to proper education. But what can be done? It's not that hard. Everybody around Sarah can help her to live her life to the fullest and gain back her rights. We need to raise awareness, for example, in education programs. That way, Sarah's community understands the nature of her disability. After setting up a local support group for parents of children with disabilities, Sarah's mother can share her experiences with others. Now, the head teacher of the closest school knows that it's Sarah's right, like any other child, to be educated well. Teachers can get disability-specific training and support from a resource centre when needed. And we need to reduce physical barriers. Building wider doorways and wheelchair ramps benefits the elderly too. When given appropriate materials, people with visual impairments can study anything. With fewer barriers, a proper education and awareness in the community, Sarah has the same chance as others of getting the job she wants. Instead of depending on others, she is appreciated for who she really is, a person of many abilities. Whether someone uses a wheelchair, lives with vision or hearing problems, or has an intellectual or other disability, let's make sure our society includes them. For more information on what you can do.
That's it. Thank you. That was a great video, right? Because it answered everything you just said. I mean, everything that I just said. Okay, we're gonna move. Oh, let's turn the lights on. Thank you. Thank you. What's your word? Okay. All right. I'm gonna turn. Okay. Yeah. Like that. Yeah. I'm good. I got my glasses. Okay. Or if they're, that's what they're for. Okay. Okay. I'm good. Okay. Now we have Matthew and Michelle Schwab.
Oh, hey, everybody. Couple things. Forgive my voice. I've been battling something all week, but I think I'm getting better. It just sounds like I'm not. I apologize in advance because I didn't really understand what a panel discussion was, and I just found out the other day that we were supposed to have some big thing prepared like Dee did, and it was Awesome.
They're all different.
Well, we're going to just be happy to answer any questions you have. And seriously, any question is fine. So if it's just about Down syndrome or growing up with it or going to school with it or how he has done what he's done or he's much more exciting than I am. So anything like that and humble. But when he was a surprise to us when he was born. And it has been a journey, but it has been an entertaining one and enlightening. And we've enjoyed almost all of it. He's exceeded our expectations at, I think, every expectation we ever had. So it's been a very great learning experience for his dad and I and everybody who's associated with him. Amelia said that I had been involved with the Triangle Down Syndrome Network. And so when he was born, he's 21, and so when he was born, there wasn't anything in the area. We live in Holly Springs, North Carolina, and there wasn't anything. So through some great fluke of events, we got introduced to some other parents who had kids about his age at the same time he had just been born, and decided to form the Triangle Down Syndrome Network. And honestly, it was a lifeline. It was great. It was, I'd have made it through, but it wouldn't have been anywhere nearly as easy as it was. One of the questions was the things that are most helpful, and honestly, it's other parents. People who've gone through it before, going through the same journey, similar journeys. There is nothing better than networking with other parents. And so that's what we were able to do. But at the time, I remember just desperately wanting a place to go, a physical brick and mortar where I didn't have to explain why he wasn't doing what the other one-year-olds were doing yet, why certain things affected him certain ways, why I would burst into tears sometimes when some other kid was doing something that he wasn't doing, just all of those things. And there wasn't anything like that. Nothing existed until 2003 when GiGi's Playhouse, you guys all have a handout. GiGi's Playhouse was created by a woman named Nancy Gianni in the Chicago area. And her daughter was born, his name is GiGi, and with Down syndrome. And she was, I think that GiGi is the youngest of 4. And Nancy just thought, I want the same thing for her that I had for all my other kids. I want a place to go. I want there to always be support for the parents and all of that. So she just started. She just called friends and said, hey, I need some money. I need a place. I need whatever. Very grassroots. And it grew. And that was 2003. We just opened our 41st. There's one in Mexico and the rest are across the U.S. Most of them, well, not most of them. I believe there are 10 in Illinois. That's where it started. So people have exposure to it. They walk in the door, they're like, I really want one of these. All grassroots. The corporate office does not look around and go, oh, we need one in Raleigh, North Carolina. Parents or community members get together and form a startup committee and decide. You have to prove that we can fund it and that the need is there. And so we were able to do that. Took us a year from when we formed our startup committee to when we opened our doors. And it's been wonderful. Even though we missed out on it when he was young, there are so many opportunities for him and for his peers now as they're entering the workforce and social outlets for him. That we have fantastic friends. He can talk about a bunch of that stuff in a minute, but we have GiGi's meets the needs from the prenatally diagnosed parent who walks in not knowing what to expect all the way through the lifespan. I think our oldest in GiGi's Raleigh, is he in his 60s? 50. Oh, right. Okay, we do have a fellow who's 61, I think, who comes and does the social programs, and he lives with his brother or his sister, and he's hysterical and has a great time. But we have another gentleman named Bobby, and he's in his mid-50s, and his goal, he didn't know how to read. He could read a couple of words, a couple of family names, that kind of thing. His goal when he started GiGi's was to be able to read Harry Potter. Well, he could not reading Harry Potter yet, but in a year and a half of literacy tutoring, he's now reading Dr. Seuss. So he is getting to his goal, and it just, the ability to be able to do that opens so many more doors for him. He can read signs in the airport now and in the grocery store, you know, just, it opened up so much. We have tutoring, we have internship opportunities. Some of our adults come and do jobs at GiGi's, also within the community, at some local establishments that we've made great partnerships with. We have programs for the littles. They come in and do sign language and music, and that is great for them, but it's even better for their parents, for their moms who get to come and hang out with other moms, and exactly what we wanted when he was born. What else? What else do I need to say about GiGi? It's free. It's free. So we raise a lot of money, but it's free to all parents. That's one of Nancy's criteria, was that finances could never be a barrier for parents getting support or families getting support. So if you've never been, you should come and do a tour. It's a lot of fun. And
It's a lot of fun.
it is fun, isn't it? Matthew is, do you want to tell a little bit about, we've actually, I'll do a little bit more and then let you take it away, okay? I think that we've had a fairly unusual experience in that he was fully included all the way through 7th grade. He had a one-on-one. We had a principal go to bat for us who said he can keep up with the class. He just needs a little bit extra help. We got the one-on-one every year. Wake County gave it to us. Academically, the struggle became a little greater once he hit middle school. It just was so much reading. It was really hard for him to, it was school all day and then 3 hours of homework with me sitting beside him or a tutor sitting beside him every day. And that's just really no way to live when you're in middle school. So we went resource. And then when he went to high school, he left the one-on-one behind and went into the occupational course of study program, which is different in different places. And in Wake County, it is academics plus 900 hours of work experience, approximately 300 of on-campus volunteer, 300 in the community volunteer, and then 300 out in the community paid, right? So he went and got his own job at Chick-fil-A in Holly Springs. He had to go in, got an application, and I think he went in 4 different times asking had they made a decision, are they going to give him an interview? And he was very persistent, and they finally gave him an interview, and they gave him a chance. And he had a job coach through Easterfield, same kind of thing. And now he works independently, right? But his list of volunteer gigs it rivals anybody. I would put him up against anybody for the things that he's been a volunteer since 6th grade, and does all kinds of really cool, interesting things. His goal in life probably is one of them is to speak publicly and advocate for people with Down syndrome. We told him in 1st grade that he had Down syndrome and explained to him what it was. And just like, you know, you have blue eyes, you have blonde hair, you have Down syndrome, it's just part of who you are. And because we thought sometimes somebody might say something to him on the playground, and we wanted to give him the language to explain why he was hard to understand sometimes, or whatever the thing was. I don't think he's ever had any any serious issues with anybody picking on you. You can talk. No, okay. What do you want to say? Well, for right this second, I might pipe back in, but would you like to say something?
Yes.
Okay.
I like what my mom said, that even though I have a disability, which is Down syndrome, the stuff I do besides my disability rivals anybody's, and I had a grateful life. I remember one of the first memories I had was when Mom I got help back in first grade, and I did not know why until mom told me that mom and dad wanted to educate me on what my disability is, Down syndrome. But it was only until sixth grade where I only knew the information and presented it and advocated, but I didn't fully understand of how it would affect me until freshman year in high school. I remember I started in junior class just bawling and bawling, crying, trying to realize of why my disability is affecting me and how it is affecting me, which was a similar journey, but more on a individual, personal level. And but because of my disabilities, I got to volunteer at not just at places that typical people volunteer. I get to volunteer at more things. For example, I volunteered at the Museum of Natural Sciences in Raleigh. I made an educational part about my favorite topic, dinosaurs. and I've been a volunteer with county public school system ever since fifth grade at the volleyball. And 321 Coffee is a non-profit pop-up coffee shop run by individuals with IDD. And
where's 321 come from?
321 is the.
No, I mean, who started it?
Oh,
sorry.
A NC State Park scholar started 321 Coffee. She saw a greater need, and she was impacted by that society. So her slogan is blending communities. The disability community and the typical community blends. And I also had the opportunity to currently serve on 321 Coffee's advisory board. And on top of that, I am part of the GiGi's Playhouse Youth Advisory Board. I am co-president of, and I love it. And that's to GiGi's Playhouse Raleigh, which is what I'm talking about, the Down Syndrome Treatment Center. In fact, I've attended workshops on advocacy, like North Carolina Youth Leadership Forum, and also educational. And also, it gave me political exposure because I had the opportunity to speak to the then Governor Pat McCrory and now the current Governor Roy Cooper, and I'm been lifelong friends with Mayor Richard Sears of my hometown, Holly Springs, and I actually recently got hired as a paid legislative intern for the North Carolina House of Representatives from Representative John Bradford. He represented District 98, Mecklenburg County.
And he decided that he wanted to hire, I'm not sure why, he doesn't have a personal connection to anybody with Down syndrome, but he wanted to hire people specifically with Down syndrome. So Matthew was his third intern with Down syndrome, and they were paid, and they got to go on the floor, and he was a page and an intern.
Honorary page.
Yep, and he had a great experience, and I think you still say that's the best experience of your life, right?
Yeah.
You got to file bills.
Yes, I got to file 4 bills.
He can tell you what they were, and it was amazing. And he's had these opportunities come up in his life that have just been, my other 2 kids haven't done anything. For real. True. So he was the one we were worried about. I don't know why. And I was going to say something about the the youth leadership forum that you went to. It was North Carolina Youth Leadership Forum, and it was through Alliance of Disability Solutions, right?
I think it was ADP, something like that.
Well, yeah, and he got to go on NC State and do a whole week's worth of learning about ADA and all of that kind of stuff. So that was he enjoyed that.
Was quite educational, and I really liked it. And with individuals with disabilities like me, one thing you probably strike out: do individuals with disabilities have a normal life like a typical person? For example, a relationship. But for me, and others like me, some of my friends with my disability had to fight that barrier. I have a girlfriend who I've been dating for 3 consecutive years, long term.
Consecutive years.
Yeah. We love going on dates, and we always love to dance. We always love watching movies in the theater, and we love going out to eat in restaurants.
Hey, but what is one thing that makes Lucia very special in the Down syndrome population? What's the one thing that she does that you don't do? Or one of the things that she does that you don't do?
My girlfriend, Lucia Romano, she is bilingual in English and Argentinian. Her mom is a native of Argentina. And my girlfriend also has the ability to drive. She took the lengthy process, competitive process of driver's ed, but even though she done the test and she kept failing, but finally she passed.
She passed. Like you said, she had to go through she had to go see an OT and several other things to get to show that she could do it. Matthew is not interested in getting his driver's license. He has a girlfriend who can drive him anywhere. But, you know, he believes that his reaction time is too slow. And so I tend to agree. So I think that we are, at least for now, going to put that on the back burner, right?
Yes. And also, just like everyone with disabilities and you guys, be self-supporting, be independent, move out on my own, which
Me too.
have an opportunity on me, which we're looking into.
We are? Yeah. Oh, right. Well, we're going to go, this is one of the things that helps people with disabilities. There's a Briar Creek, we're going to go next month. There's an apartment that's, call it an Apple or something. I don't know why. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I've heard of it.
With
like
the technologies in all the rooms.
And everything's set to a certain standard for someone with a disability. I've not seen it personally, but I have heard about it.
We're going to go see it. Oh, sorry.
I'm good.
But apparently this apartment, and this is just, nobody lives in this particular apartment, but it's got sensors in all the rooms and shows when the refrigerator opens and closes, and if somebody goes into the bathroom and if they spend too much time in the bathroom. And there aren't cameras, but it's monitored 24/7. So if he were living on his own, which we fully anticipate will happen one day, it's just another level of somebody knowing that he's okay without somebody having to actually be there with him, cramping his style.
Yeah. And I really want to be a public speaker. In fact, my mom asked, I always have a somewhat set mind of ideas that I want in my future. My mom says, but, and also individuals with disabilities been entrepreneurs, and we know one of them, Mutually Close, which is one of my friends since birth, 21 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And my mom gave me the idea of starting a public speaking business, and I agree with her, where we didn't fully launch it, but we're working towards that.
And you've had several gigs. Do you want to see if you have any questions?
I have several gigs.
You don't have to.
In 2011, when I was in 7th grade, I gave my Down syndrome presentation, which was the first time I actually spoke about my disability my entire life.
Publicly, to a bunch of people.
Yeah, and in 2014, on World Down Syndrome Day at North Carolina Governor's Nation, and GiGi's fundraiser in 2015. In 2016 was our GiGi's Playhouse's grand opening. And in this past year had the opportunity to speak at the Craft Family YMCA, and my mom's church in Greenville, South Carolina, living with an extra chromosome. The National Down Syndrome Congress conference, which is awesome.
You spoke there about your experience with John Bradford.
Yes, and I spoke my experience, my time in the North Carolina legislature, which I love. And I had the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Raleigh Mayor's Committee on Intellectual Development of Disabilities regarding employment. And with Wake County Public School Systems, annual events they call Palooza, and they always have a key speaker. And this year, I was lucky to be their 2018 key speaker for the start of the teacher's administrative year.
Your first day, he spoke to all the special ed teachers in Wake County, 500 people in the morning session and 500 people in the afternoon session.
Total 1,000 biggest crowd I've ever spoken to.
Were you nervous?
No, I was not nervous. That's my natural gift. I am never nervous, no matter how many where it is, all that.
That's making me nervous to hear the numbers.
And I also spoke at Martin Middle School. That was my first time speaking to people younger than me publicly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and 321 Coffee's 1 year anniversary celebration.
And you just been invited back to another elementary school to speak to third grade.
Yeah.
About your disability, right?
Yes. Does anyone have any questions?
We actually have a question from someone online, Ruth, and she'd like to know from all of you, can you talk about your experience in public libraries and what kinds of services / programs a public library could have offered when you were either growing up or now that you're an adult?
The resources I had has been numerous. I had issues seals.
Public library, in the library. I want to know if you've done anything, if you've had any services within the public library.
No services in libraries for me because my disability is more mental.
Well, but they could provide things. There could have been. Matthew utilizes our public library all the time. He's had a lot of. He goes with frequency, probably once a week, either with a worker or with family or brother, checks out books, and everybody's been wonderfully helpful. I don't know that there's anything above and beyond them just being extraordinarily helpful. Just been patient and showed him several times. I know he had to go in several times and show him how to look up books and that type of thing. And I think they probably did that more times for him than they would have for a typical person.
For me, I'm a journey. Growing up, libraries, you sat quietly at a desk. You said nothing, you did nothing but hold a book. So growing up for me with the book was just pretty much looking at pictures, because for me, I currently use an overlay because paper, black and white paper, looks like ants on a napkin to me. I can't afford to buy the glasses that are out there because they're very expensive. So I use an overlay, which is a colored tint, and I didn't bring one with me because I didn't think to bring it, sorry. And putting that over the black and white allows my eyes to adjust to see the letters to read. So growing up was challenging. I guess I was faking and didn't know I was doing that, right? No, I was trying to learn. So the library growing up was that way. College level, again, I'm a journey. I sat on the floor and I had all the books surrounding me, and it took me extremely a long time, and the librarians would just say, shh, 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 because back then you had a little card catalog and you had to go there, and thank goodness I learned my ABCs, because knowing the ABCs and liking numbers, I love numbers, helped me to find books on the shelf. Wasn't always the right book, but it helped me to find books. The more books I was around me, the better I felt, even though they weren't the best books and not always the books that I needed. But it made me feel good because going to the library was a privilege, and I guess it still is, but it was a privilege to get your first library card was like getting, I guess, a gas card now, you know, because you had to go to that librarian, and just like you see on TV, old shows, the librarian sat behind this huge big desk, and you had to stand there quietly and patiently and wait for her to acknowledge you, her or him to acknowledge you, and then they would do some things, and next thing you know, this is your library card, do not destroy it, make sure you bring books back on time, otherwise there's a fee, da da da. So that's my life in the library growing up. So by the time I got to college, different atmosphere, a little change, and it was like, oh my gosh, nobody's available to help you. You know, you're wandering. You know, they didn't help you. They sat behind the desk until, you know, at least in grammar school and high school, they knew that you needed help. In college, it was fend for all. You know, you're supposed to know this already. Now, as an adult, I go to the science library at ECU just because I'm in school. I mean, I'm not really looking up anything. Sometimes I'm just sitting there with my laptop. Sometimes I'm there and hoping that somebody has a question about something so I can share. It's painful for me, and here's the tears. It's painful for me to go into the library, in a public library that's not associated with a college, because everything is technology based. Everything is, you have to know how to download, you have to know, granted, I know the words, you know, you have to know how to upload, you have to know about different aspects on the computer, how to, you saw me fumbling with the PowerPoint. That was very stressful for me. Even putting it together was stressful, but I had somebody in my ear saying, okay, click on this button, click on that button. I'm an older individual. I didn't grow up with technology that most of you have. So going to the library, although it's extremely painful, I still enjoy going. I still enjoy going. I do not do well with touch screens. It's a sensory issue. It can never change. I hate the idea that we're forced in the community, like stores, to go through the self-checkout and everything's touch screen. I don't like that. And it's, so I'm constantly saying, look, I need you to register, check me out at the register. So going to the public library and having to sit there or try to get help is really painful versus a college library. I feel at home at a college library more so than the public library that I live at, you know. And I'm sure there are things that could change, but it won't change for me because I'm an adult, and they assume that adults know what they're doing. Sorry, I don't. And to try to explain autism to people, it's extremely hard because they say they understand, but they really don't. And the time that it takes me to say, I really don't know what you're talking about. You know, I don't know what that word means. I can say that word, but I don't know what you mean. So it's best for me to just ask for help with my friends who understand me a little bit better. But I still go. I love the college science library. I just like going there. And eventually somebody helps me. How to scan a book. You know, if you're copying a book, you can scan a page. I don't know anything about that, but I know it can be done because people have helped me. So I hope that you guys will make a change for the seniors like myself who, you know, that are out there who may not say they have a disability or may not look like they have a disability, but need help. And I hope you guys are the ones who make that change, because you'd be surprised how many will not even touch a computer because of the experience. And going to the library, you take out a book, hope you can read it. I can with my overlay. And I go to Barnes & Nobles all the time, even though it's not a library, but I go and buy books because it's a good thing. That was a good question. Yes.
So the same question, but I guess for Matthew, how old were you when GiGi was started here?
Look, our GiGi's is only 2 years old.
Here, okay.
Yeah.
So were there things?
Very recent.
So were there things that you, like places you liked to go when you were younger to do things in your community? And I guess where did you hang out with your friends, or what kind of things did you like to do?
Yeah, I love hanging out with friends, and that's one of the biggest challenges for me. The my diagnosis is because when our GGs was about to be brought out to Raleigh, all my high school friends were either juniors already got accepted into colleges, universities, or seniors or ones that are already in college. Only two my friends I hang out with, but only very periodically. So that was a huge friendship social challenge for me. But the GG's Playhouse, it gave me more of a place to interact with individuals with my 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 type of thing, with a disability, ones that have a hard time in life.
How about growing up? Was there any place that you went that you can remember that we did as a family or that you did with friends? I'm not really remembering anything other than just typical family interactions and events that we would do. We would have, when he was little, he was very sensitive to noise, so we'd wear the headphones if we went to a street fair or something like that.
Earplugs are in my pocket in case you guys got loud.
He doesn't need that as much anymore. But so I think that we've really not had the need for that. I have much more than he has.
I'm asking because my daughter goes to GG sometimes, and so she has her GG friends, and I can see that having that community of people who like her that fulfills me that I can't fulfill for her, right? So actually more for her than for me. GG is her spot, right? And so I wondered how, if we were trying to, people who are working in libraries, going back to this question, right? We're trying to create a place within a local community, because GG is far away, right? We're trying to create a friendly place in a local community. I guess what kind of place would that, what would that look like?
Well, I think it would be, we have a satellite GG's in Chapel Hill, near Southern Village. I don't know Chapel Hill very well, but there's a church right there, and they generously give us some of their space, and so we have some programs that we run there. But it would be amazing if you could have, if librarians could have, or media specialists could have some kind of work with the GGs and provide, we could certainly provide the training if you had volunteers who would come in and run a program at your local library for the little kids, an LMNOP, which is language, music, and our peeps, and it's sign language and music, and they just, we're just a story time. We have kinder music come into GG's and do that. So any of that type of stuff, it's great to have the opportunity to be just with people with Down syndrome, although we do not exclude other people with other disabilities. Anybody is welcome at GG's. But also to have an inclusive play date at a local library on a Wednesday morning. Do it, just all 2 to 5 year olds, or however it is you design it. But a GG's could certainly come and train your volunteers or your staff to run a program like that, or give you some idea. Yeah, that would be great.
We have programs at GG's House, unique for each age level. For the little kids and babies, is more discovering the fine motor and gross motor skills, and for toddlers is to more do that kind of thing, and then it gets up to the kid level, you'll get strengthening those muscles, and then you have teenage programs which are for social interactions, and we also have one for adults, but primarily for adults is more because adults are the ones that get jobs, are more exposed to the vocational world. We have a program called GiGi Prep, which helps them like learn how to cook, how to eat healthy foods, and how to interact with the community.
One of the neat things for his age at GiGi's is that because he's not in school anymore. I mean, he has this program at Wake Tech, but he's not in a social setting like high school was for him. All of those friends are gone, so he doesn't have a lot of that. So that's a great thing that he enjoys at GiGi's, is being able to hang out with peers his age and a little bit older. But
Yes.
if they have any other questions.
Do you guys have any more questions?
They're very quiet.
I have a question for you, actually, if that's all right. Have you had any experience at other conferences besides disability-related conferences with STEM or quiet spaces?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
how's that been positive or negative?
I am always overstimulated, but I have coping skills to keep me grounded a little bit more. There's a book called No More Meltdowns by Jed Baker, and that some of his techniques apply to me, and some of them I try to implement. But I will never go to a music conference, just so you know. I'll never, ever go to one of those because I can't control the sounds, and I go to STEM, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with stemming is, where you're rocking. See, they don't have big wheels on this chair because I would be spinning around, but I'm comfortable. But I stem, and then I lose words, and people look at you as if you're having a nervous breakdown. It's because I can't control the stimulation. So I'll never go to a music concert. But some of the other conferences, I do a lot of preparing in terms of, I know I have to be there, I need to be there on time. I pull out my outfits in layers. I sometimes run up and down the stairs if there are stairs around. And what that does is grounds my sensory system so that I can then sit still longer. And it's, for me, I do physically activities, obviously, because my field is physical therapy and business. That has helped me a lot to be physically active in some ways. As a child, or should I say high schooler, I was a para-tumbler. So as a para-tumbler, I was grounded more and can go out because we performed a lot. I performed for the Knicks and the Giants and all the football players. So in order to do that, not knowing that I needed to, because I didn't know that I was autistic then, and having that physical impact helped my sensory system stay grounded. So those are some of the things that I still do and I have to do. Like yesterday I presented at ECU. The occupational therapist knows, who's in charge, knows that I need to take breaks. So I would go out and do wall push-ups in another room away from everybody because I get so wired. And she can pick it up because she's occupational therapy. So she was like, okay, do you need a break? I'm like, I think, like, why don't let's go take a break? So, those are some of the things. Sometimes I have to be reminded, but usually, how you sit and fidget in class and you might reposition your hips. Same principle, it's just a little more intense. Any other questions? Nothing? Guys are so bashful.
A question for Matthew. Can you talk to us more about, or do you have any tips for us on advocating for what we're passionate about?
Yes, I'm being an advocate, no matter what disability you have or if you don't have a disability, is equally important. And the way that is usually done is that you stand up for yourself, but that's not all. There's more like media exposure out there that spreads awareness and politically, because once you give your ideas in that will potentially give birth to any more potential bills which will eventually become laws that will be a campaign for both populations, disability and typical population. And in fact, disability population had it hard in about 25 some years ago when the then U.S. president, they had to actually, most of the physical disabilities had to actually physically climb up the steps of the Capitol and protested on the grounds of Capitol Hill back then and say like, we need our rights to be heard. We need accommodations. And then it was very lengthy. And then that was a true example of awareness and advocacy. And then just because of that dedication to the individuals with disabilities then that gave birth to the Americans with Disabilities Act. So that actually came from awareness and advocacy.
On that same note, there's so many programs out there, especially for students who are seeking, and you guys are in library science, that offer training. Disability Rights does offer training for advocacy. There's other programs for advocacy training. And what you're basically, like Matthew said, is you're standing up for a cause. You're something that you strongly agree with. Like for me, I wish cats, hope I don't offend anybody, cats are not allowed outside. But I will never push that because I would have to interact with one. So, but you know, as long as you find it, you know, here, even as students, you guys have challenges here with this. It could be something with as simple as tuition going up every semester. You may stand strong for that. And I'm sure, and the advantage you have is social media. And the advantage you have is library science. You put that out there, you'll be surprised how many other people agree with you, and that becomes your passion, and you stand, that's the cause you're advocating for. So it doesn't necessarily have to be for a disability. It could be for anything that you personally feel strong to, and the advantage is the social media that you guys have. Because I never would have told people, oh, I'm an advocate. I didn't even know how to spell the word, let alone know what it meant, but I'm constantly saying, that's not right, you know? I know because I'm sitting here, I'm telling people that things are not right. And if it wasn't for disability rights for me, who've allowed me to then have a voice. The first day they met me, they said, they saw me in the corner and I was really quiet. Now you can't shut me up. So, because they gave me that power to be, it's okay to say no. It's okay to say that things are wrong and we need to make a change. So anybody can be an advocate, and more people should be, because then we won't have so many problems. So that's just my spiel. Stand off my soapbox. Any other questions? We can have a last question. Last question. Go ahead.
So you mentioned the sensory-friendly theaters. Is it the atmosphere of the theater or the movies actually changed in some way?
What they do is they change the lighting, they change the sound. The movie itself doesn't change, it just changes those type of simulations. So like it may play at a slower speed in some cases, depending on where you are. But it's usually the sound and the light that they adjust the most.
Okay, I want to say thank you to our guests.
Thank you for listening and asking questions.
All right, what we're gonna do is we're going to take a 15-minute break. We're gonna stop the recording. Take a 15-minute break, and then we will be back